Hey everyone, and welcome back to What Did I Miss?, where today I'll be breaking down all the Easter eggs, references, and things that you may have missed while watching the first episode of the fourth season of Star Trek Discovery, titled Kobayashi Maru. The title is a reference to the infamous combat test given to Starfleet officers, and I will go into the history and meaning behind the test, as well as many other things from this very busy first entry of the season. Before I get into it though, I want to welcome you to WDIM and ask that you please help support the channel by hitting the like button on the video, and if you have not yet subscribed, please think about doing that as well. As I mentioned, the title of the episode is taken from the Kobayashi Maru training exercise that we have seen on screen a couple of times. Once at the beginning of Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, and then again during the 2009 Star Trek Reboot. The purpose of the test is to observe the crew in a no-win scenario to see how they will react. The setting of the test has the crew respond to a distress call near the neutral zone, and then be attacked by a group of cloaked Klingon vessels. At first, the cadet and crew must decide to either enter the neutral zone to respond to the hail, which will violate the current treaty with the Klingons and could lead to an all-out war, or not help the vessel. James Kirk was the first and only cadet to beat the Kobayashi Maru test, which he did so by cheating, an event depicted in the 2009 movie. Both times the tests were shown on screen, the crew responded to the distress call. But what has not been shown on screen is what occurs when the cadet decides to uphold the treaty and not respond to the distress call. This scenario is depicted in various novels as well as in the Star Trek Online game, and includes the crew staging a mutiny in order to rescue the Kobayashi Maru, or the cadets being forced to listen to the crew of the ship while they are being killed by the Klingons. The event that created this test was one of the planned but dropped episode ideas for the series Enterprise. Also, since it was shown during the first season that Burnham served on a Vulcan ship before being transferred to the USS Shinzon under Captain Georgiou and thus becoming a Starfleet officer, this means that she did not attend Starfleet Academy and therefore did not take the Kobayashi Maru test. The episode begins with Burnham and Booker attempting to reconnect the Federation with a species known as the Alshane. This species has a really interesting design and have a symbiotic relationship with their planet, which allows them to armor themselves with butterfly-like creatures and fly. They don't initially trust Burnham and Booker, which leads to a misunderstanding regarding Booker's cat Grudge. The Alshane refer to Grudge as a monarch, after Grudge is called a queen, and a monarch is also a type of butterfly, which is probably why Grudge being held captive made them so upset. This causes the Alshane to chase the pair off their planet. The scene reminded me of the opening scene from Star Trek Into Darkness that had Kirk and McCoy running away from the native people of that planet and then jumping off a cliff. Burnham may even be referencing J.J. Abrams' style of having the crew jump off cliffs throughout his movies when she asks, why is there always a cliff while they jump? The pair are able to escape while also helping the planet by fixing their satellites and giving them dilithium. Dilithium being the cause of the burn, which was the focus of last season, and now is being distributed by the crew of the Discovery on these types of goodwill missions. This mission was a very Burnham-type mission, with the initial diplomacy failing and her having to solve the situation on the fly, so to speak. After the intro, which has been updated once again for this season, we catch up with Saru and Su'Kal on Kaminar. Su'Kal is once again played by Bill Irwin, and after being found towards the end of last season on the dilithium planet, he has gone back home to Kaminar. Saru agreed to travel with him to not only allow Su'Kal to reconnect with his people, but also so Saru could do the same. Even before Discovery traveled to the future, Saru had not returned to Kaminar for many years after leaving to join Starfleet, except for a mission shown during the second season. So it makes sense that Saru would want to be with his people, as he may have been away from his home for longer than anyone else on the ship. It appears that the Kelpians now live underwater after they were shown to be living on land prior to this. It also looks like they now peacefully coexist with the Ba'ul, a species that had subjugated the Kelpians prior to the 23rd century. Kelpians were being manipulated into ritual suicide by the Ba'ul to prevent Kelpians from evolving to a point where they would be a threat to the Ba'ul, something uncovered by Saru. The last time we saw these two species, they were afraid of one another, and it is fascinating that while most of the galaxy was torn apart by the events of the burn, these two warring species were able to find a way to live together. They refer to Saru as a Great Elder, and during the third season of Discovery, a hologram of a Kelpian elder was used to help Su'Kal learn during his time on the dilithium planet. Saru explained that these were the most revered people of their culture and held all their stories. It now seems to have evolved to a position of political importance. Saru also states that he has been on Kaminar for 5 months, and since we last saw him there in the closing moments of the third season, it's safe to assume that this is how much time has passed in the show. Back on Discovery, Burnham and Booker are discussing him going to his nephew's bar mitzvah, as well as her meeting the new Federation president, which is why Burnham is wearing her brand new dress uniform. The cast were fitted with new uniforms this season, not just for a new look, but because the gray uniforms blended in with the new style of the bridge. They pass what looks like a Tribble in the hallway, but moves more like an MCE-6 repair droid seen in Star Wars. I'm guessing that you know what a Tribble is if you're watching this video, but it's interesting that a Tribble would be allowed on a starship, and that must mean that their breeding ability has been somehow slowed down. Burnham and Booker are discussing the first new class to Starfleet Academy in 125 years, and Alex Kurtzman confirmed last year that there is a new series named Starfleet Academy in pre-production. At the time, he mentioned that producing more than 5 shows under one franchise banner would not be possible though, which is also what is keeping a series based on Section 31 from being produced. Booker confronts Burnham about how lucky they got getting off the planet in one piece, and she does not seem fazed by it. This scene also reminded me a lot of the start of Star Trek Into Darkness, where Kirk has to learn a similar lesson after endangering his crew and violating the Prime Directive. It feels like the season is taking Burnham on a similar journey that Kirk had to go on, which is to think before you leap and possibly endanger your crew and yourself. We are then introduced to the new Federation president, Liara Relak. She is part human, Bajoran, and Cardassian, and on Deep Space Nine there was a character that was part Bajoran and Cardassian named Zial, who was the illegitimate daughter of Dukat, one of the main villains of the series. The president makes it a point to state that the Federation is going to return to its roots of scientific exploration. I almost feel like this was a statement made towards fans as well, since a lot of the criticism surrounding Star Trek Discovery is that the crew does not spend a lot of time discovering new worlds and civilizations, which is one of the early hallmarks of the franchise. President Rilak introduces the new Archer space dock, which is named after Jonathan Archer, the captain of the NX Enterprise. He is hailed as the greatest explorer of the 22nd century and has had many things named after him, including a ship, 2 planets, a comet, and many schools on Earth. While Burnham and Tilly speak about the new cadets, Tilly confirms that she is now a lieutenant. Burnham references Osira, who was the Orion leader of the Emerald Chain and main villain of last season. At one point, Tilly was forced to surrender the Discovery to Osira, which caused Tilly to further doubt her own abilities after being promoted to first officer. A distress call is received from Commander Nahlas on a repair station. His species is referred to later as Akuzanum, and this is the same species as one of the characters in the short trek Children of Mars that sets up the event seen in Star Trek Picard. It is decided that Discovery will respond to the call, and the President demands to join the crew, which Burnham does not appreciate. They arrive and see the station bouncing around like a pinball. If you are wondering why the people on the station are not getting knocked around, it is because of the artificial gravity on the station that is unaffected by the movement. Fans of Babylon 5 remember that station was in constant motion in order to establish its own artificial gravity. On Kwejian, Book performs a ceremony with his brother, who returns from last season, along with his nephew. This is a really sweet scene that is hard to watch after you know what happens at the end of the episode. On the station, Commander Nahlas asks that some engineers beam over with programmable matter to fix the issue. Programmable matter is a substance that was introduced last season on Discovery and is responsible for most of the new technologies seen on the show. Adira comes on the mission due to them being from this time period and having more experience with programmable matter. We also see Gray for the first time, and they reference how they will soon have a real body. At the end of last season, Stamets and Culber not only took on Adira as part of their family, but also vowed to find a way to make Gray corporeal again, or as Gray calls it, incorporated. Before the season, series executive producer Michelle Paradise confirmed that at some point this season, Gray would be able to be seen by everyone again. The station is damaged by frozen methane gas and they are forced to evacuate. During the emergency, President Rilak questions Burnham's decision-making, which sets up a confrontation between the two a bit later. I feel like the plotline of Burnham being doubted by a superior has been done quite a few times on Discovery now, first with the original Captain Giorgio, and most recently with Admiral Vance, so I hope that this season somehow the storyline seems fresh. Back on Kaminar, Su'Kal convinces Saru to return to the stars. While I may not have been a huge fan of the reasoning behind the burn, I really do enjoy watching Bill Irwin as his character, and I hope that this is not the last time we have seen him. He has a really good line of dialogue of how there will always be people who fear what they do not understand, but that there are now fewer, which I think is one of the tenements of the mission of inclusion that Star Trek has always stood for, and this scene is probably my favorite of the entire episode. Back on Kwejian, Booker is in his ship when it and the planet are hit with the same anomaly that hit the space station. It appears to be something that is traveling through space, similar to the Nexus anomaly shown in the movie Star Trek Generations. The event itself looks to me almost like a black hole, but let me know in the comments if you have any theories as to what this may be. Commander Nahlas, Tilly, and Adira leave just as the station is destroyed, but due to damage sustained during the event, Nahlas is killed along with 2 others. President Rilak and Burnham then discuss the Kobayashi Maru test, which Rilak somehow knows about, even though it hasn't been around for over 100 years. The President also mentions that Voyager is set to get one of the enhanced propulsion systems they are designing. The Voyager J was shown last season in space dock and may be the ship she is referencing. During the argument, Booker's ship returns to the Discovery on autopilot. Booker's ship returned to Discovery last season on autopilot after he was caught by the Emerald Chain. He demands that they pull up a visual of his planet, which is now not where it is supposed to be and destroyed. I have to say, for an episode with a lot going on, it felt to me like a lot of the plot lines were rehashed versions of others that we have seen recently. Besides the turmoil between the new president and Burnham feeling like a rehash of every relationship the character has had with a figure of authority, this new threat seems very similar to the Byrne threat from last season, so it doesn't really leave me wondering what it could be. Plus, it also felt like Adira having a ton of nervous energy seemed a lot like Tilly when she first started out. So now Tilly is a different character after her nervous energy was really her defining trait early on. It is hard and almost not fair to judge a first episode of a season before watching a few more, because there may have been things set up here that we do not know yet, but for now, I can say that I was underwhelmed by this episode, but I hope that I'll be pleasantly surprised in the coming weeks. Well, that is all I have for this week, but let me know in the comments if I missed anything. Thank you very much for clicking on this video. Please hit that like button if you have enjoyed it, and I will see you next time on What Did I Miss?